The great thing about being a director, however, is that once in a while I get to ask one of my senior staff members to welcome you instead. So it is my privilege to introduce our Deputy Director, Mr. Maurice Rowan, who will do the welcoming address. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for supporting our veterans. Maurice?
And as I was just telling Dan, I said, you don't listen very well. He said, I'm a Marine, I don't have to. I want to thank you for being here, but before I move on, I want to thank the General Officer present, other officers, the senior NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, and all those of you that have served in the United States Armed Forces during wartime and in peace. I'd also like to ask all the mothers present here today of members of the Armed Forces at any time to please stand so we can honor our mothers. Please stand. I also want to thank the elected officials here present. Two of them that are here are truly what veterans stand for. And most of you, as I look across this audience, I see Bronze Stars, Silver Stars. I see Vietnam. I see the Air Cav. I see the Marines, the Naval personnel, members of the Coast Guard, National Guard and Reservists here, with decorations that I could never earn, that are symbols of our service in our country. And there are two people here that are elected officials that exemplify what we are as veterans. Veterans, we never stop serving. It doesn't matter where I turn in my life, I always run into a veteran, whether it's in law enforcement, the fire service, public service, construction industry, the law, the practice of it, the judiciary, our elected officials in Washington and Sacramento. Two people here today stand out for me because they've had a part in my career development. One I'd like to ask to stand up, and that's Joanne Evans. Joanne? Joanne and I worked together at the California Department of Forestry when she was the public information officer. And she and I went to several fires together here in Southern California. She did a fantastic job. She served her country in the Marine Corps. And men of the Marines, you remember there was a time when there weren't very many women in the Marine Corps. Joanne served 4 years, and I won't ask her when that was. But just to guess, it was around the 60s, I'm hoping. And another one is really an amazing man is Dick Stewart. Dick, if you're here, I heard you introduced, please stand up. Dick serves on the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley. He is a lawyer. He is currently their mayor. But most importantly, and I know him from his service of over 20 years, spanning 3 decades, is United States Air Force Reserve officer and pilot. Please give him a round of applause. Dan asked me to be brief, and as I started my career in the Air Force, I know what brief means to me. He's a senior NCO, and I'll follow his direction. Following the words of the senior NCOs keeps officers of any rank out of trouble. Today, yes, go ahead, NCOs, please applaud. And now the officer corps can respond to that because they know it's true. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special day for all of us. I want to thank you all for coming out and taking a few minutes of your day to remember the service and sacrifice of our men and women who've worn the uniform of their country. It is an honor to wear that uniform no matter which branch of the service, no matter how long or short you serve. The fact that you enlisted, raised your right hand, and repeated those words, "I do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic," That is an oath not taken lightly. It's an oath each of you swore to take, and you upheld in peace and in war. And we want to salute you and thank you for your service. That is why we were very fortunate to get a radio program for veterans. There aren't very many in America today that stick to Veterans Affairs issues. Talking to combat veterans in combat, talking to them that have been honorably discharged or those in the hospitals. The greatest thing about getting to talk about veterans is so many people in this country do care about all of you that have served, particularly our combat wounded, our combat casualties, those that have served, and particularly our Vietnam veterans. I can't say enough about what our Vietnam veterans Our Vietnam veterans made a pledge, and many of you see the Freedom Riders. Every time I've come to this great place, this hallowed ground, this sacred place, there are motorcycle escorts, and I've ridden in those motorcades, and when this most recent war on terror started, we had protesters at our gates. We had protesters at our funerals. We needed somebody to provide a buffer. The men and women that ride on those Freedom Rides and those Harleys and the other bikes, which names we won't mention. Those Harley riders are patriots. They have defended our families, and they deserve a round of applause. So the beauty of these Vietnam veterans, their service was dismissed. It wasn't forgotten, but they didn't get the welcome home that our World War II veterans did. And talking to some of them, I've learned that one of the reasons they're out there, besides trying to protect our families, is because they didn't get a welcome home. And they were not going to let down their brothers and sisters in today's armed forces and let their service be diminished by protesters at the gates of this sacred ground. We owe them another round of applause for stepping up and supporting our veterans. On them are legions of people here in this state. And California takes a lot of hits for not being a patriotic state. I can tell you that, as you know, Californians have contributed more to the global war on terror than any other state. They've taken more casualties, more combat wounded. They've built more equipment and supplied more warriors than any other state in the country. And right here in Riverside and San Bernardino County, we host some of the most important military installations to the global war on terror effort. And those folks, those warriors, and the civilian personnel that serve in the Department of Defense, they also be saluted. Let's give them a round of applause. There's an area that we really need to focus on as Americans, and our veterans are finally getting their due. We have a new GI Bill. All our new veterans will have the opportunity to go to college if they so choose, with several $1,000s in federal aid to do that. This is a recognition that is long overdue and dropped off the radar screen after our Vietnam veterans had earned their benefits and we switched to a Montgomery GI Bill. Part of getting your benefits that you've earned is working with our Veterans Affairs officers. In Riverside County and in San Bernardino County, we have the best in the state. One of them is here. Mr. Earl, if you'd stand up. He represents Riverside County.